Well, I started internet dating about 4 years after my husband died. And in those days, it was just so easy because you didn't have to pay anything. You didn't have to sign up for anything. You just went in and it was a bit like shopping, really. So had a look at all these people and then you wrote to them. And if they wrote back, you could start a correspondence. And so I had a lot of fun with internet dating in the early days. And I learned for myself the do's and don'ts. Most of them are common sense. Do tell a friend where you're going. Do phone whoever you're meeting on a landline, either at home to make sure he's not married or at work to make sure he is who he says he is. And have a handle on his identity. That's really important. Meet in a public place. So I always met the people that I had decided to meet in Covent Garden, where there's a sunken courtyard, and you can, if they're wearing a daffodil in their lapel or whatever, you can have a look down from the top of the deck and see who it is you're going to meet. And it's a very public space. So don't go off anywhere in somebody's car unless you're fairly certain you know them. Just sensible things, really. Always have a mobile phone with you, although in the old days I didn't, because mobile phones were the size of a house brick. So yeah, that's how I started internet dating. And my friends were all far too scared to do it, but they all wanted to know all about it. And then I actually married somebody I met on the internet, and that didn't work out. And so I started internet dating again. And that's why when I came back to internet dating, it was a very different kettle of fish, basically. And you had to write, well, it was almost like writing a book, writing your entry form for some of these big internet sites. And they kind of encourage you to sound different so that you stand out. But then, you need to be truthful. But if you were just to write and say, I'm really boring and I like cooking curries, nobody's going to ask you out on a date. And I know people who've told lies about their age and all sorts of things. But generally speaking, I've been very blessed and very protected and very lucky that I haven't had any bad experiences. Well, a relationship in later life when you've been widowed and divorced and had a few other relationships that have ended amicably, but you knew they weren't the ones for you. It's a big step to decide to go into another relationship. And John and I had met on the internet, but we're both very independent people. And I think in your 60s, if you're established with your own home and you've got your own children and grandchildren, you need to think about the financial aspects of dating again. Do you go Dutch on everything? Do some of my friends expect the gentleman to always pay? I don't. But I reciprocate by having dinner parties at home for his friends. Those sort of things. They're all things that, being British, we don't like to discuss money often, but it's really important to get those things sorted out, I think, in advance or fairly early on. Don't lend people large sums of money, but just sensible stuff, really. Don't share your bank account details and so on until you're sure you can trust them. Will their children like you? I've had a couple of experiences where I've been heartbroken, not at losing the chap, but at losing their grown-up children or the potential mother-in-law, who I often keep in touch with, and we keep sending Christmas cards. So when you get involved with somebody, there's a whole bunch of other people. When you're older, you come with a lot of baggage, and so do they. And I think the one thing is you have to rediscover being tolerant, which for me was easier because I'd had my dad living with me. But for some of my girlfriends, they're like, oh no, he'll squeeze the toothpaste from the wrong end of the tube, or, he'll park across the drive and put his wheels on my lawn, or, to me, I just wanted to find somebody that I could have a good friendship with and then see where it goes from there. And as I thought, or we thought at the time, no big hurry. But of course it turned out that we didn't have all the time in the world. And you need to think about that as well, because you might go into a relationship, and I've got friends who've gone into relationships with people who are in their 70s or 80s, and they end up very quickly becoming carers, which wasn't what they'd gone in for. And that's a tough situation as well.